his views and agreed to come meet with us tonight. David and Richard Walsh, both are commissioners. I think you were my accountant at one time.
Yes.
Back in the prudential real estate days. They agreed to come and talk to us a little bit tonight about their views, hopefully on the proper use of the trust fund, whether or not it might or might not accommodate this $21,500. I would be discouraged if we end up at town meeting floor and we're both saying no to this. So I think you guys can help us figure out how to get to where we need to get to on that. So with that, David, Richard, we'll turn it over to you.
Sure. We have a third trustee who couldn't be here tonight, Tom Walsh. I'm the chairman of the commissioner. Richard has been with me for quite a few years. We've enjoyed this duty that the town has given us by election. When it comes to the Gould Fund, I think there's a lot of misperceptions on what can and cannot be done. The legal opinion that was put forward on March 9th, in my opinion, cherry-picked a lot of words. Didn't put the full judgment in, and I've got a copy of that judgment here. I'll read you what it says about Gould B. It says 1/2 for the. This is so the Gould Fund is a fund that's in perpetuity, and the income is to be split 1/2 for the purchase of books at the library and 1/2 originally for the purchase of art. And in 1989, our predecessors, Curtis Campbell, Marjorie Ruiz, and Peter Hathaway went to the Essex probate court and got an opinion to broaden the language. And the language says for Gould B, 1/2 for the purchase of works of art, which shall encompass all forms of creative expression, and which shall include without limitation painting, sculpture, printmaking, music, drama, literature, and dance. And for the repair and upkeep of the library building and grounds, including erection of new buildings and additions, and the making of other structural improvements, including but not limited to renovations and additions needed to receive and accommodate any works of art purchased as aforesaid, books and other learning devices, and systems described above, and also to provide space for exhibition and display of works of art, including cultural and other exhibits, shelves, displays, screening rooms, meeting and study rooms, and storage areas. My opinion, and I think it's shared by Dick, Dick can say to the contrary, but my opinion is that all of those words talk about improvements, advancing the library, not fixing prior problems or throwing good money after bad issues. But as you can hear, it says, even though it says for the repair and upkeep, it then goes on to say including, which means that is limited to what is included. Later on it says including but not limited to, which is expanded. So we take the position that the Gould Fund B should be used for improvements to the libraries, enhancements to the libraries, advancements at the libraries. To give an example, the renovation project in the late 90s was an improvement of the library, and the Gould Fund B played a very important role in that, in providing a very significant down payment to that construction and paid the annual bond premium for 18 years to the tune of $88,000 a year, I think it was.
66, yeah.
In the last year, yeah.
No, it was 66.
66 a year for, I don't know how many, about 18 years. So all those are improvements. We're now being asked to help with the mold remediation, roof repairs, things like that, which in our opinion is not covered by Gould Fund B. We're very happy to help with enhancements and improvements. Certainly you can see there's descriptions about displays, things like that. When we were last at the trustees meeting a couple of weeks ago, there was talk about the mold. We said, I certainly think that paying for dehumidifiers is certainly under that, But doing the remediation, I don't believe, is the obligation of the Gould Fund. So that's the position we've taken, and we think it's a very sound position.
So the question of the roofs, the painting and the carpet, which I think were new to you in my email, you didn't seem to be aware that that was on the warrant article.
The only information we received for, that the library asked us to consider was priming and painting some windows, installing security cameras, and mold remediation. And the mold remediation was questionable as to whether or not it was going to be reimbursed by insurance, which certainly, you know, we wouldn't want to pay for.
Correct.
And then have the town receive the insurance proceeds.
So I guess what we want to, I'm focused on the words repair and upkeep, and you know, that, those have meaning to me.
Right, and it says including after those words. Repair and upkeep, including.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and you're reading that as including means exclusive of anything
That's
that
right.
has a list.
That's right.
Yeah.
And then, because further on it says, including but not limited to. So the person who wrote this document expressly put in the word including, and later on put it including but not limited to.
But he says it before that, just before that, as part of the same read, including without limitation, painting, sculpture,
Right.
printmaking.
That's what I'm referring to.
And for the repair and upkeep of the library building and grounds, common.
So we're getting into a little bit of a legal interpretation here, and I'm not sure we'll solve that here.
We don't have to, we have an opinion from town council that has already essentially resolved that issue. I'm never a fan of getting dual counsel, but we have an opinion from town council, and that carries weight. That's her job to decide these issues for us. So in her opinion.
And we don't agree with that.
But that's her call.
But she can't force us to
She
vote
trusts
on
us not to
favorable if we don't agree with that. That's our jobs as trustees.
That's true, but,
And I believe that that opinion cherry-picked words out of this document.
I tend to agree with town council's opinion based on just my past experience, that the word including is broad, and just because you don't include the words without limitation, or including but not limited to everywhere, they're still read very broadly. That's my experience.
That's fine.
I don't think we're going to resolve that tonight. So what I would like to understand, though, is the items, the roofing, the carpeting, the painting, is that something that you're going to take under advisement now that you're aware that that's a request of?
I think we don't, I
We
mean,
haven't received.
we haven't received any information about that, other than what you said in your email. I mean, carpeting is a very, I mean, if it's an enhanced carpet, if it's a replacement and it's improving, then absolutely. I mean, if the roof, if they're repairing some leaks in the roof, then I would say probably not. If it's, and what was the third one? The mold. Well, no,
The mold is not in this.
the windows are, if they're scraping and painting and doing that, then that's probably a no. If it's
What's on the warrant is not window scraping, it's
Okay.
painting.
like I said,
mystery,
the first we heard was
geographical rooms in
the email the other
We're
day.
talking about a draft warrant, so,
Yep.
she was talking. Can you finish what she was saying?
The draft warrant article requested painting and carpeting, the mystery room, the old lobby, and the periodical room, because those have all seen 20 years of wear. And so it's taking out what's very tired and improving those rooms by replacing.
If that's the case, then yes, we would take that under advisement, but
And
it's the first we've heard of that.
Okay, well, not having been at the library trustees meeting, I don't know. Kathy was probably there, but, you know, we're working on what was given to us and
Okay.
saying, okay, we know that Gould Fund B exists, and it's there to make the building suitable for holding the books.
Yeah.
And the art and performances and whatever, so
Right.
it
So-
seems logical.
Just to recap, we were given 3 items, which we didn't feel met the criteria. And then in Mr. Warren's email the other day, it was 3 different items that we had not heard of before. So under that, I would say what you gave us the other day, I believe my reading, very short, 2 of those would probably meet the criteria. But again, we don't have any specs on anything. So It
So-
sounds good to me.
If you were to receive a formal request from the library trustees in the next few days, is that something you would act on before the end of the month, of April? Before town meeting?
We'd have to have a meeting, and we'd have
Right.
to schedule a meeting.
But could you schedule?
Yeah,
What I'm trying to get is, we're
No,
gonna
no.
go before town meeting, and right now, we're recommending no action.
Mhm.
We're gonna talk about this, whether that's the right recommendation or not. But we're recommending that with the understanding, I don't wanna use the expectation, but it is our expectation that you would act positively on that. Not that you said it,
Understand.
but that we would expect that. So that we're not going to town meeting saying, yeah, we're not recommending positive action, and they're not gonna pay for it, so the library's left in the middle,
Mhm.
and they're not getting funded.
Right.
That's gonna be an awkward position for, I think, both of us.
Yeah, well, we'd like to see the
Yep.
specs on those requests, which, as of Friday, were new to us.
So I'm gonna ask Ms. Hartman if she would carry that message back to the trustees, and see if we can get you something in that regard.
Yep.
Can I ask just one other quick question in terms of the finances of the trust? So I have the June 30 through 2/18 balances, and it shows income expended for that fiscal year was, this is on income fund B, art and maintenance, $32,000, $110,000 of income received, $32,000 expended, and a book value balance of $350,000.
Yes.
So have there been other monies spent out of that since June 30th of last year?
Probably very limited. That was the fund that was used up until last year to pay the bond coupon. So that went away last year, so certainly there is more money now available on an annualized basis, when that fund is earning over $100,000 a year.
So the question I wanted to get to is, if in fact there haven't been significant material expenditures out of there, I assume you have some thinking about the reason to grow the income, which is what you're allowed to spend. And believe me, we understand that you're not supposed to go into the principal. You can't go into the
We
principal.
cannot.
So the fund will not get exhausted. because
Well,
it-
excuse me, I'm sorry. On the funds you see there, the B fund
Yep.
and the A fund is accumulated income. Those could be spent.
the income could.
And also
Principal can.
the principal in the Gould fund
Right.
cannot be spent.
Correct. Right. So we
The
understand.
principal balances in A and B, it could be spent because it's accumulated income.
So the 300,000 that you just quoted is the accumulated.
Accumulated income.
So what
So there's 300,000 there, plus an additional approximately $100,000 coming in each year, some of which gets spent for the,
Art,
So
music
yeah.
performances.
So is your thinking that you have discretion on the things that we're talking about, the roof, the painting, and the carpet? Or do you think it's an absolute that the fund doesn't allow mold remediation, or whatever the topic is?
well, we're following the terms of the trust, and
So
so,
you're using no discretion, you're going by the terms of the
That's
trust?
right.
and you- Okay,
that's right.
all right.
Yeah,
So
now,
if you decline to do it, it's because you don't believe the trust allows you to do it?
that's correct, that's the only thing we consider. We don't consider, oh, there's a larger balance, there's a smaller balance,
Okay.
that has nothing to play in here.
Yep.
You know, in our opinion, that, and we were just talking about this outside, that it would be great now that the bond has gone away, that there is some savings in that account, because at some point, the library's probably gonna need another renovation or a big enhancement, and the Gould Fund would be there to help, like it was in 1998.
Agreed, agreed. It would also be great if it would support some of the repair and upkeep.
Well, the renovation.
of the existing building.
Right.
It's ongoing renovation rather than waiting until you have a huge one.
Yep.
It's cycling through the carpet at the painting.
Preventative maintenance.
Yeah, we're not talking light bulbs and toilet paper, we're talking real building infrastructure issues.
So we have a difference of opinion on what the probate court said, and what the opinion we got from council between your view. Okay.
Yeah, and we're the three, Tom's not here, we're the three that were elected by the people of this town to interpret this document. That's all we do. I could care less about an opinion of council, because I'm charged with following this document, as I am the other documents that govern the other trusts that people in this town have put in the connection, under the protection of the town in perpetuity. I mean, we're supposed to protect these funds so that they're here for our children and the future generations in perpetuity. So that's what we're trying to do.
Do you have legal counsel?
No, we don't, but we could certainly get legal counsel very quickly.
They would have to get money somehow to do that.
It would be the town who would pay. We're a town department as well, so
Yeah,
it
there's
would
no
be,
money in
it would be
budget.
something separate, but we don't need that. I mean, the town council could say, they're basically saying, you can pay this money. They're right, we can pay this money. We choose, we do not agree with that.
I'm
We
sorry,
choose-
that's discretion.
I-
Oh, you don't agree with that?
We don't agree with
That's
that.
different. It's
Right.
not you choose, it's you
That's,
don't agree.
that's right. We choose not to agree, is what we, so they're saying we can pay. We believe that they're, picking and choosing words here.
Yep.
We believe it's for improvements, enhancements, advancement, not for repairs and maintenance.
I'm not a lawyer. I got a lawyer
I
sitting next to me,
understand,
but
that's
I'm not a
fine,
lawyer.
that's fine. I'm not trying to be a lawyer myself. I'm trying to be a trustee.
Okay.
But ultimately, it's your call.
That's right.
Done deal.
Okay, more questions for the trust fund commissioners or for the single library trustee? Kathy, do you have a meeting scheduled anytime soon?
Second Tuesday in April.
Well, if you'll stay in touch with Dana.
Yeah, anything that we can do before town meeting, I think is going to.
And we've offered to attend any meetings with the library. We'd like to keep the communication open, as long as we can. Like I said, a lot of these requests come kind of late to us, so,
Yep.
and we provide them with, the annual report. They've got the same information you have there, so they understand their balances, if you will.
We appreciate everything that you've done as commissioners for the library. We've got a great facility over there. We're thrilled to have it and the work that you do. So, and thanks for coming in. I know it was a really short notice, and
That's right.
and David responded, the same day I sent a note out to him and said, be happy to be here tonight. So thanks for doing that, Richard. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Kathy. You made your trip downstairs.
So then the selectmen voted to approve it.
The selectmen will put $592,068 on the ballot.
They voted
But that's the number the selectmen wants.
That's never the selectmen wants to work. I didn't hear the word on the ballot.
Well, they voted.
Wait for him to come back.
Yeah, we should.
Yeah. The other places we're going, April, upcoming meetings, April 8th.
Can I go check where that number was on there?
I think the only thing that they have a place to put it is the ballot question. Well, you want to go back. Upcoming meeting schedule, April 8th. We'll have, I don't know if we'll have the zoning bylaws yet, probably not.
I can send you an email.
Yeah. But
Slot.
we'll, see
They don't want to meet.
what we wanna do.
That what they're asking?
And I think we'll have the third
Probably
citizen
suspecting,
petitioner
I'm
in
suspecting that somewhere over
that night, the
alternative plan, so you don't.
whatever that is, Article 3.
Ruin the aesthetics of the
I think
community.
it's now.
Is that first one scheduled first one?
Darn it, Seth.
No, we.
And we're having trouble
We probably.
with the machine.
Because of the aesthetics of the
And if the planning board wants to be here on the 22nd instead, I think we should
No, I just want to change
plan to meet on the 8th and the 22nd.
the.
And then I understand there will be a moderator's forum to discuss the warrant on April 30th. Is Steve still there? But I understand there's a moderator's forum on April 30th to discuss items on the ATM warrant.
7 PM in the Great Hall.
I assume it's at 7 PM and I assume it's here, but I don't know for sure. But sort of set aside April 30th. On your calendar. Tomorrow.
Impact to the fair, it's just.
Oh, there's the school committee Katrina, you're holding a,
Just holding a meeting at NASCO.
To
so really
answer
just-
questions.
Just to answer questions about, the budget, really, just to present, you know, and talk through the initiatives and answer questions.
okay, so, now we need John back, he went back down to the selectmen to see what exactly they were talking about with that number. Once John is back, we can finish our third. That might be John now. Recognize his footsteps.
So yes, they voted, this wording as it is in Article 3rd, which means that that's the number that they would support for that.
Okay.
So I got that correct.
$593,068 is what the ballot question is.
The elementary schools stay in the column.
So the question is, what do we want our Article 3rd motion to be?
Even if we went something bigger than that,
That's not what's on the ballot
it's
question.
not what's on the ballot, and you have to have 590.
So that's our, so
That's
if I
our
read the
cap.
motion, should I read this whole thing, or do I just read?
Oh, what the heck, read the whole thing.
Okay. I'll make a motion for positive action that the town vote to appropriate the sum of 20 million, well, should I just read the one line? Yeah,
Oh,
I'll
no,
just-
read the whole.
Okay. Make a positive motion for Article 3rd, recommend that the town vote to appropriate the sum of 20,902,941 for the schools, highways, and other town expenses. Fix the annual salary compensation of all elected officers from July 1/19 and determine the manner of expending the same as stated in attachment A. And to meet said appropriation, in addition to the amount transferred for such purposes under Article 2nd, to raise and assess the sum of 20,852,715. And further, that the town vote to raise, assess, and appropriate the additional sum of $593,068 for the elementary schools, as stated in the column entitled Contingency Appropriation of Appendix A, provided, however, that such additional appropriation shall be contingent upon the passage of a proposition 2.5 general override referendum under general law in chapter 59, section 21C.
There's a motion. Is there further discussion?
I would say that I would really like the elementary schools to make sure they work with all the bodies and the town, and just have a consistent plan, and, you know, I think this is the highest number I can get behind. I know there needs to be more overrides going forward, but I think we need to bring the town together as opposed to be so aggressive in the way that it handled it this year. I think the selectmen are listening to that risk that if the whole number failed, then they would really set the schools behind. And I don't think it's gonna for future amounts that the school needs to be very transparent, needs to find other funding, and needs to work well with everybody.
I'd like to add to it, this, the biggest expense in the schools or in any of this is people. And it is, it'd be very difficult to try and assess, you know, we did some studies on the town because it was a little easier to see that and get it first. And we were seeing raises that were noticeably north of what the rest of the
What a non-public
non-public
sector.
sector, and the private sector, believe it or not, was getting for the average annual raises. And so I think it doesn't speak to that they aren't deserving of the raises, it doesn't speak to that, but it speaks to we need to look at it and be clear on what the spend is on our biggest line item in our budgets, which are our people, and make sure we have some clarity around that. And that choices are made based on that across all of our constituents, our schools, elementary and ASCO, our union workers, and our non-union workers.
What does that amount to as an increase? Why not?
9.93%,
Including the guidelines.
including the guidelines, right?
Dollars or Article 3 as a whole, goes up to school. School.
805,159.
800.
5,000.
5,000 divided by 639, break that in your head.
What are you doing?
It's over $1,000, 1,400.
Oh, per
So
student.
that'll move our in-district expenditures per group for pupil from 16,692 to 17,692. All right?
Well, it also
Well,
depends on
We
what
don't know. what the
insurance
construction
costs are doing,
is.
because the state numbers
Matter
always
matter
include.
Yeah.
of magnitude.
Yeah,
What are they?
You're jumping it up quickly. Well, you're jumping up 9 point,
1,200,
yeah, 9.9%.
So that means
almost 10%,
Okay.
to the extent that the
Yeah.
student population stays less,
Right.
which I think it more or less is within a percent or less.
So I just leave us with, when is enough enough? Is it when we get to the top of the list, or is it when we move up?
Well,
60 places?
I
It's a
suspect-
rhetorical question.
Yeah, I suspect some of those other towns have also moved,
I suspect,
and depending on
I'll
their.
be curious to see if they go up $1,000 per student. Now, they might go up 2,000.
It also, because benefits are folded in depending on what they have for a plan and what their experience has been.
Well, now you're going to
That shifts.
the meaningfulness of those numbers.
Well, yeah,
Things in
there is
those
that too.
numbers
Yeah.
that are different from school district to school district. Some of
Right.
them mean we're spending more on the actual education, some will mean we're spending less on education. So we just need to be really careful when we use benchmarks, and we don't know what's in those benchmark numbers.
Well, and as you said, Boston looks really high, but they have a city school district issue.
No, I
The-
appreciate it. There's stuff in those
Yeah.
numbers that.
Right, I just think measuring inputs is the wrong.
Further discussion?
I think that I'm definitely behind, where I was last week, I'm behind the override to the extent that we place the services from last fiscal year. I don't think we can really quibble with a lot of the things that they put on that list. Bus services, crossing guards, required special ed contracted services. The only part that might be worth discussion or to get back to fiscal year 2018, which we did without for last year, and if we're trying to ameliorate the systemic problems that we have, which we've discussed frequently, that might be one way to do it.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
Aye.
Thanks for you abstain. Okay. All right, then Article 3rd, positive. I'm going to assume that the zoning board, the two zoning articles, those will say recommendation pending.
Those are
Permanent
mostly
authority.
they're housekeeping, but we might as well.
Wait until we hear from them. Okay, so those are marked as pending. And our 3 citizens petitions, because we haven't heard from one petitioner, and we want to hear from the other side of the story, the other people, or the planning board, or the other side. Well, now, we have water system improvements, roofing improvements. Do we want to wait, we can still wait, or we vote that?
Well, so I think getting this great from $100,000 for a variety of projects, if they have a fund like this. I understand basically that $100,000 is the old fund essentially that they're not going to use anymore, so they're going to appropriate it for the project that they have. Couldn't give me a particular project, big enough number for any project, as projects arise. Got the email from him, that I shared with everybody.
So what's in the warrant for Article 15, system improvements that includes design of water main replacement, replacement of fire hydrants, replacement extension of water mains, other water system projects. So it's various sorts of things they need to do to stay on top of the system.
I can make a motion, but that's essentially it, as the need arises. So, I'm going to make a motion.
If you would like, yes, it would be better than going recommendation pending.
Recommended that positive action, the town to vote to transfer and appropriate $100,000 from the water enterprise retained earnings extended by the board of selectmen with the advice of the board of water commission fund water system improvements, including design of water main replacement projects, replacement of fire hydrants, replacement of water mains, and other water system projects, including all incidental and related costs, and to authorize the board of selectmen with the advice of the water commission to take any other action related to.
Second.
Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Okay. Now we come to elementary technology and steward security. And yeah, in looking at turnbacks, Kelly and Catherine sorted through things and found that there's 85,000, give or take, in FY19 turnbacks that could fund the security system for one school. And that would leave us trying to cover the other security system out in county, as well as some amount of elementary technology.
Very creative there. Okay. So, all right, so the warrant article is the 5,000.
Yeah, the ATM.
Yeah, right, no. So I'm just worried about me, right?
No, that
Yeah.
means, that's good, that means there's 85,000 more that,
Right.
And this is a version of the warrant, ATM warrant from this afternoon at like 4 o'clock. We're down to timing it, not just dating it.
yeah.
Potentially
get them both done here.
Right.
We could get them both done. And we could get some amount of technology done. And then the amount of technology, we also have to figure out what we want as minimum free cash position and what we want in terms of that. It's all tied together.
So we're likely not going to need a capital exclusion.
Right, we can fit it. Yeah. If we don't do the whole 390,000 of technology plus the 100,000 that's not in the operating budget level services, then
Right,
Yeah.
we also have a free cash, maybe
yeah. And there is,
What level are we comfortable with having it?
Yeah, it was standard.
right, well, there's 750,000
Yeah.
by the guidelines.
Yep.
And then how much do you want to reserve for still being
Open
And
overlapping
the economy
old debt, new debt?
Right.
Yeah.
The Fed's got to pull back on their, makes, wait,
Rhetoric at it.
Yeah.
1.125 million?
I'm thinking we should keep it constant.
What's this?
Well, I think that's gonna be hard too.
What's this?
The ending free cash last year was 1.125 million.
1.125, right, but now we're at 942 right now.
So how do we get back to 1.1?
Well, we can take this free cash to reduce the deficit.
Well, what technology number do you have in there for that number?
250. Actually 50 and
And you have the 85.
85, right? Right. So for
See, I
example,
feel,
so
I just feel that
so if I do,
the technology needs to be a multi-year thing.
okay, yeah.
And,
Maybe if I tried it on the warrant.
Yeah.
and I'm still at that 200 number.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
Wait, hang on, so
of technology on this committee for 7 years.
And it's 7 years.
I got an email from my technology there that says, don't worry about putting technology in, just let me go now, so.
We have some data I can share
Don't worry about bringing it in.
Right, so so if we, right now, want to keep free cash the same level, with the security camera and the 250 technology, is only $232,000 to free cash to reduce the tax.
Opposed to 400.
Yeah. Yeah.
Nothing less.
Yeah, and we're 166 over the levy limit too, so. Over the levy limit, yeah. It's just because you're moving around.
And that's after Donnie Bristol's application, right?
So Donnie Bristol doesn't factor in the model.
Donnie Bristol is just a reimbursement.
Yeah.
Right, but it's going.
Right.
It will reduce the tax levy, but it was a loan he gave us, I don't think it's.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't want
No,
to.
no, no, I know that, I just want to make sure that it's lopped off.
separate.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we'd be in big trouble if we had to pull that out.
But I don't, yeah. So, I mean, if we didn't do, right, so with the technology and maintaining this minimum free cash position of 1.125 million, we're over the levy. Yeah, so.
general, 25,000. That's good.
Yeah, that's a maintenance kind of a number. In the capital, we're trying to finish off catching up to where we're supposed to be. I think with the votes we've taken already, plus the 400,000 Mike needed to balance, that's the free cash balance. And now it's that one. Yeah. Just the.
You trying to read it?
Just the numbers.
1,292,254.
What's your opinion? We were at 1.1 at the end of the last one.
I think that's, it's gonna be hard to leave it at the 1.125.
Yeah.
I don't think.
And I think next year, we're gonna have a little more local receipts if the meals excise tax passes.
But that's only another, what,
That's
40?
50,000.
Yeah, that was 40.
Unless we go back on our 300K gap. We did that last year.
On OPEB?
No, 300K capital guideline. Where would you reduce that last year by some number?
Well, because we shifted some into SDM.
Oh, right.
You know, the Masconomet stabilization number lives outside that capital guideline. And the elementary security and one-time technology live outside that capital.
Yep. Well over the capital guide.
So if you wanted minimum free cash, 950,000.
I don't know why, I mean, 750 is where I get,
Right,
where.
yeah,
where-
it's just a,
That's
it's,
the floor, yeah, that's the
Right.
floor.
yeah.
And, you know,
You can't go below.
yeah, I don't like that.
And
And
we know,
we
we know
all-
there's a challenge coming, so.
And we all, yeah, there's challenge
I
coming.
mean,
We
as
all-
soon as challenge comes, then all of a sudden property values drop, all of a sudden the levy goes down, and all of a sudden you just make a big cut.
No, the rate will go up. The property values will go down, but the rate will be determined by what the spending is. It's the total tax levy that you can increase by 2.5%, not the valuation. Yeah, so your property value could drop if the economy tanked, but your tax bill dollars wouldn't necessarily have to. Unless
You still can go up by 2.5%.
the town decides to
Taxes.
hack away at town services like we did in 2010.
Your rate per thousand wants to go up.
Yeah, well, yeah.
a lot.
And at some point you
So
can't
that-
go over $25 a thousand.
Is that right?
I believe that's what Proposition 2.5, that's the other piece of it. It's 2.5.
So, I mean, I think there's a general consensus that we all have, it's not being entirely financial globes, but all being somewhat in the financial spaces and having a little bit of education on it, that there is a downturn coming at some point in the near future. These are cyclical, and we've had an 8-year run. So, I mean, you're thinking about trying to keep that free cash at a reasonable number is not unreasonable.
There's a likelihood of a 2020,
Yeah.
2021 recession.
That's-
And also, we're just going to hear the exact same story next year, there's a whole list of stuff that we can't pay for.
I mean, we are taking care of some things this year.
No, I know. So what do you guys think?
And that's-
950, I heard?
But even when we get to that number, yeah, 950 or something like that.
You leave your free cash at 950, what does that leave you for the tax?
So assuming you're gonna reduce the debt bump or do, or.
Yeah, then you reduce,
debt
the
bump?
free cash, then you have to reduce the debt bump. So where we are right now.
What do you think?
So right now, we're 16,000 under the levy, 942,000 free cash, and 415 is free cash to reduce the tax levy.
And that's with 250 built in for tax?
Tech for tech and 85 for cameras,
Yeah, the other way to look
or
at it.
camera, or no cameras.
And that puts our free cash at what? At the end of the day?
So 942, 254. So if we want to bump that up by 8,000, we just drop 8,000 off of here.
No, that's fine, no.
Yeah, okay.
Just yeah, something's missing.
Yeah,
These
I don't think it's
numbers-
that.
I think I did something wrong.
We can look into that. Right.
But show the IT guy.
What's
Bad triple S.
IT Bob.
IT Bob.
Volunteer Bob.
That was a bad joke.
Is that a wireless? No.
That's it.
All right. Yeah.
Something's not.
Let's look at these
playing out.
numbers.
Okay, so this number here is what?
The 450?
Yeah, it's plug.
When do we get that here for the,
Yeah, but when you have the team
Just the
450.
400,000 down.
down, he's been moving it down. What did you move your, reduce the tax levy number down to?
So it's 415, if we dropped it down $8,000, we'd be up to the 950. Yeah. So, for example, if we,
Yeah.
Self contributed to the true.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I think we're off like 2 or something.
Yep. Are you sure the 250 is in there? The tech spend?
well,
Just looking to see.
oh, so, here we
Yeah,
go.
that's
I'm
the
gonna take
number.
I'm gonna take the 250 out,
Yeah.
okay? Boom, oh, that's good. Okay, and then we're just gonna go, and then, okay.
Where's the
comes out
So
there.
it comes out 266, 178 under
Yeah,
the.
yeah, and
under the limit.
then we can pump that, you know.
Yeah.
Minimum free cash.
Can you go back to the other sheet? I'm just trying to see if there's anything
Yeah.
showing 300 for, is that OPEB?
That's OPEB, right?
100 for,
Capital stabilization fund.
yeah,
And
25
general
for the
reserve.
central.
Yeah.
25 for security
Yeah.
cameras.
It's back.
Yeah.
Whoops, 25,000, sorry, Scott.
30,000 for fire rescue, 150 for highway friendly loaders.
Right.
Cameron, everything that's been voted so far is the 872.5. So if you took the 872.5 off the top, let's try to see where she's stuck.
What'd you say it was, Catherine? 875?
872.5. Is what's voted so far. So that leaves,
Including the Tri-Town Council?
yes, so in,
We haven't
That's,
voted.
it should be 250.
the Tri-Town Council, Senior Care, Emerson Field, and Masco Stabilization is 142,500. Those were the
Oh,
used
okay.
for special
Yep, yep, yep.
purposes.
So
Then the-
872,500 you said?
872,500.
Oh, we haven't voted these yet, so it's just, this is.
So then, if you add,
Yeah.
I know.
And
then if you add the, yeah,
then
that's.
take off 400 to balance,
Right.
take off 400,000, so that's
So then it's-
1,292,250.
Oh, wait, 400,000 to balance.
So we have it as 300 to reduce the tax rate and 100 as a debt bump, or just leave it as one number?
No, split it. But don't we need 400,000 to balance?
Well, yeah, that's what, so 400,000 total, but we had it broken down to three,
That-
leave it as one number, okay?
So that 400,000 is, what I'm seeing, if I'm
Yeah.
wrong, is that 400,000 includes to reduce the debt pump.
So if you add in the
We
400,000,
got a
bring
lot
it
of
down
things going on.
1292.
Yeah, no. Okay.
Mike, I thought that you needed 400,000 to balance, and you took another 100,000.
Okay, let's see. I see. So in order to make the 400,000 reduce the tax
Levy to
levy
balance,
to balance,
to get us under the
yeah,
levy limit.
then the plug was the minimum free cash position. And that came out to 942, something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that,
yeah.
before we voted this other stuff. And so,
So you've got 500,000 in this version of the model to reduce the tax levy, and
Yes.
that's both the debt bump and just getting to balance.
right,
So if I take the 400K to balance, then I'm at 1,292,254 remaining free cash.
Yes.
okay.
And then you take something to reduce the debt bump,
So,
et cetera, et cetera.
yeah,
But all we've got, if we say the minimum free cash position is 950,000,
Yep.
say.
That brings you to 342,254.
Right.
Which means those numbers don't all add up, the three places, 342.
No, they're bigger.
Right. Well, but, oh, I thought they were all in those numbers that you were getting to.
well, okay, so let's so you want to put it at 950 as the minimum free cash?
Yeah, I was thinking if 950, we're trying to figure out if it's 950 a cash, you reduce the debt bump by 100. You do
Okay, all right,
elementary
hang on,
school.
let's,
Oh, sure.
let me just, okay, so. Yeah, thanks. And- Oh, no, I multiplied by 0.
Yes.
Okay. Oh,
And then,
okay.
Having
Okay.
way too much fun with that.
Yeah, okay, so where we're standing now, and we haven't voted
Right.
the camera for one school
Yeah.
and the tech.
Yeah.
So now what we're sitting at is, there's 742,000 $204 to reduce the levy.
But we're not gonna apply.
No,
No,
right,
that-
right, right,
that, that tells you what your flex
It's
is.
a plug, right?
So you can pull 300 or 400 off of that.
Yeah, and then we're 343,000 under the levy.
I think we're double counting 400. I think that's what's happening over here somewhere. I'm not sure how.
Yeah, so the way the model works, you've got to look, the way this model works, which is years and years ago, right? It's, you've got to, in order to get the free cash to reduce the deficit, you've got to monkey with the free cash, minimum free cash position after you've spent all your free cash on whatever you want.
Well, I mean, that's saying the same thing, right? You're saying, we've got, correct me if I'm wrong, we're saying we're 1.9, 1.29 after the 400,000 balance.
Yeah.
The 400,000 balance, that is, you were thinking it was 100,000,
The 400,000 was just to get us below the levy.
okay, with nothing in it.
Yes.
to
Nothing
debt.
for the debt
The
fund.
debt's on top of that.
Okay, but that's not what this is showing.
Hang on, let me just-
So you agree with that, with the 400,000, you agree with the 342, 254 number?
Yeah. Above, still available,
That was still
above the
above.
950,000.
So then if you vote positive for the 85 and the 250, then that brings you above by 7,254.
And there's nothing to reduce the debt fund.
And nothing.
Well, let's go with the 400,000, reduce the tax rate though, which is higher than you.
Right, but you just need to do that to balance, to get us below the levy limit. That does nothing for taking,
Right.
to drop off the bump.
We don't.
Last year, we did about 50,000 to do that.
Right,
We went extra beyond just basic balance.
with that right now, we're under the levy by 1,000.
Right. Right.
And 400,000.
400,000, so I've got to,
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be close.
Yeah.
So, oh boy. Right, okay. So I bumped the free cash position up. Plus. Okay. So, okay. So the minimum free cash would be 957. Oh, I got another 75.
And you still do have a reserve levy capacity.
Yeah, 100,000, yeah. All right. Right, okay, so let me just come to this, so we can just skip it. So, what I'm looking at now, so you said 1,170 is what you're at? Yeah, I do, okay. Okay, so now I'm looking at with camera. and
85,000.
85,000 camera, 250 for technology, and a minimum free cash position of 957, 254,
What's left to apply to the levy?
$400,000. Before, when I came to 2.7, I had 500,000.
Right, so there's nothing to reduce
This is debt.
the debt
Yeah,
fund. You
right.
can,
Oh.
I mean, it's,
Yeah.
It's what we have here. We've got 342,000
Right.
left to split
You're
among
Those three ways.
these
You're
three
spending it on those
things.
three things.
That's the
right?
problem.
But you're adding an extra 100 to the tax, so there is no reduce the debt loss.
Right.
Right, I mean, we're sort of, kind of squeezing the lemon.
The rock.
What?
The rock. Just when we're
So
down,
you're
we're
moving that
down to a
100,
couple.
you're moving that
Right,
100
that's
to the tax.
that close to the levy line.
Or you split the difference or something, you do 200 for the
Yeah.
tax
Yeah.
out of the desired 490. Or you don't reduce the debt fund. Or we go back and look at something else entirely.
Yeah.
And don't make the same progress towards capital stabilization, or don't make,
No, we just got AAA.
we're not gonna kill OPEB.
Well, we already factored in on that.
Yeah, she's,
Right,
but she's
I
talking
know,
about
I'm
where
saying,
the
well, if you
fold.
wanted more
Oh,
money.
no.
We can pull
No.
it down.
No, those are the things that got us AAA. This is good, not just for AAA, that's just good finances.
Sound practice, yeah.
You could bring the free cash down to 900 and do
Yep.
207,
Yeah.
or
The,
210, I mean, when it comes down to a few $1,000s,
Yeah.
one way or the
Yeah.
other, I
It's
know.
not gonna
Or-
That's
or
a
you-
good call, John.
The
go
other-
down,
the
oh, I'm
other-
not saying do that, I don't
Yeah.
think we do that, I'm brainstorming. Or we took out one of these 300K capital things that we did. That's how, I don't know how you prioritize.
Yeah.
That's like saying you're gonna prioritize.
Yeah. Katrina, we had asked last week how you felt security system versus technology. I don't know if you guys had a meeting and discussed
Yeah, we
that
did.
at all, and if it was, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, the answer
It's all important.
is that it's all important. I think what we came to, what we discussed in front of the board of selectmen was that the security can't be split out, right? So that we learned that that has to be done all at once because of the way that the
Oh,
work
right.
is being done.
That would make
But
sense.
that technology is easier to, you know,
To
to phase
be
in
very
and
partial.
to, you know, ask for this year and next year and, you know, the year after that, so.
And if you have turnbacks this year at all, would you do something with technology, or were there other things you were
We
waiting?
have to deliberate, I feel like, as a
Yeah.
committee before I wouldn't feel comfortable.
But that's one thing that's easy to do at the end of the year because you can get it in fairly quickly.
It is an option available to you if you had.
And we are prioritizing technology as teacher laptops first, like, we already have our list of prioritization, we teacher laptops and workstations and then student tech.
Okay, and teacher laptops, workstations are 1,000.
I have a total, actually, that, the technology director gave me in preparation for tonight, just in case it came up. And actually for the teacher, in total, for the devices, interactive boards and projectors, that number is $295,000.
So that would be laptops, that would be smart boards,
The
boards of
tech
some
for the
sort.
students is actually a smaller number, which makes sense if you think about it. So, and we're like currently only 19% and 16%, 19 at Stewart, 16 at Proctor have, professional staff have a functioning display or projector tool. So these things, they just cycle out. I mean, it's.
Oh, yeah,
It's
no,
just,
I-
and
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so well,
290?
let's start with, personally, the minimum free cash,
If you don't reduce the
can't
debt
go
loss,
on
you
any
get
lower.
260.
We all think, personally, we all think that there, or believe that there's gonna be a economic change coming and not a positive one in the near future. Each year, we've gotten closer and closer to this levy and had to work harder and harder to just stay under the levy. Which means that next year, that trend considers, we're not under the levy. You know, just, I don't know that's the case, but just
We
if we
might have an
trend it out.
operational override
Yeah,
in the next couple of years.
yeah, and